"Daughter, I'm sorry. We won't have Christmas this year." That phrase, spoken by a poor maid kneeling in the rain at the entrance to a mansion decorated with golden lights, changed everything. Changed her life, changed her daughter's life, and changed the life of the richest man in that house. Because Mario Sols, the millionaire owner of the mansion, heard everything. He just returned from Christmas shopping in his car. He was about to enter the house when he saw this scene. Sylvanas, the servant who had worked for him for 3 years, knelt on the wet ground holding the hands of her little daughter. The girl, only 6 years old, in a shabby red jacket, cried and asked, "Mum, why does Santa Claus never come to us? We're bad." Mario stopped, hiding, unable to move, and at that moment an old memory returned. A memory of when he was poor, when Santa Claus didn't come to his house either, when he felt invisible, like he didn't deserve to be happy. But why was Sylvanas here, broken, asking her daughter for forgiveness? What happened in his house? Mario didn't know, but he was about to learn the most brutal truth, and when he gets to know her, everything will change. A few hours before, the injustice began. Silvana Mendez was 32 years old and a single mother of Yuretsi, a 6-year-old girl with eyes that still believed in goodness. She worked as a domestic servant for 3 years at the Solis family mansion in Monterrey. The owner, Mario Solis, was a retired lawyer who raised his 5-year-old son, Gabriel, alone. Mario was always fair, paid on time, and treated Silvana with respect. It was a blessing for her to work there, but not all was peaceful in that house. Doña Adelaida Solis, Mario's mother, was 65 years old and had a heart that had forgotten how to love. Widowed for 10 years, she moved into her son's mansion 2 years ago, after the death of her daughter-in-law Eleanor in a car accident. Adelaide said she was there to help, but in reality she had taken complete control of the house, and Adelaide hated Silvana. She hated her because Sylvanas was poor, alone, a mother without a husband. She hated her because Mario treated her with kindness. She hated her because Gabriel ran to hug Sylvanas every morning with pure joy. She hated her because on the rare occasions when Silvana brought Yuretsi to work, the two girls played together without distinction, and Adelaide could not stand equality where there should have been hierarchy. That morning, December 24th, Sylvanas woke up with hope. She put aside part of her December salary. It wasn't much, but it was enough to buy a simple gift for Yarots and cook a modest dinner. It would have been her daughter's first happy Christmas in years. Sylvanas arrived at the mansion at 6 a.m. The house was decorated. Golden lights, a 4-meter-high Christmas tree, crystal decorations, wreaths on the doors. Everything smelled of money and comfort. She made breakfast, and soon Gabriel appeared, still in his pyjamas. "Good morning, Aunt Silvana." The boy hugged her, and Sylvanas felt her heart squeeze. She adored this boy. "Good morning, heart. It's Christmas Eve today, isn't it? Yes, I will receive many gifts." Sylvanas smiled, thinking of Yarots, thinking of the doll she was going to buy. It would be little, but it would be with love. Mario came down a little later, already in a suit, briefcase in hand. He had meetings all day, and then he would go to the mall. "Good morning, Sylvana. Thanks for breakfast." "Good morning, License Mario. Have a nice day." He went out, always busy, always with his head in court cases, blind to what was going on in the house. Adelaide came down to breakfast wearing an expensive dress and a pearl necklace. She sat down without saying hello, simply holding out her cup, expecting to be served. Sylvanas filed in silence. Adelaide drank slowly, watching Sylvana with a strange look. There was something different that day, something dangerous. The day went normally. Sylvanas cleaned, washed and cooked, but Adelaide watched from afar like a predator watching its prey. At 3 p.m, Adelaide was hosting 2 friends for tea. Women of the same class, dressed in branded clothes, jewellery on their fingers. Sylvana served tea with thin buns. The women talked about travel and repairs while Sylvanas remained invisible. Then Adelaide began. "Sylvana, where are my crystal jewellery?" Sylvanas paused in confusion. "The jewellery, Mrs. Adelaide, the expensive jewellery I bought in Europe was in a red box. They disappeared." Sylvanas's heart began to beat faster. "I don't know, Miss Adelaide. I didn't touch any box." Adelaide stood up theatrically. "I didn't touch them then, as they disappeared after you cleaned the living room. I didn't take anything, I swear." The friends exchanged glances. One muttered something, the other laughed cruelly. Adelaide continued mercilessly. "And imported turkey has also disappeared from the freezer." "You took it, didn't you?" "No, I've never stolen anything." Sylvanus's voice trembled, but it was no use. Who will believe a poor servant against a rich mistress? Adelaide crossed her arms. "And you were rude to me in front of the guests yesterday. You responded rudely when I asked you to wash the dishes." "I didn't respond rudely. I just said that I would wash it after I ironed the clothes." The friends shook their heads disapprovingly, one remarked loudly. "These maids today have no respect and don't know their place." Sylvanus felt tears sting her, but she didn't let him fall. No. Then Adelaide sat back down, sighing dramatically. "Sylvanus, I could fire you right now, but it's Christmas Eve and I'm kind." Sylvanus held her breath. "So I won't fire you, but as punishment I won't pay you your December salary." The world collapsed for her. "But Mrs. Adelaide, I need this money. I have expenses. My daughter." "You should have thought of this before. Now get out of my sight. Go home." Sylvanus stood in shock. Salary, gift, dinner, all lost because of a lie. "I said, get out. Or do you want me to fire you right now?" Sylvanus staggered out, grabbed her bag and old jacket, and walked out the service door, unable to think. She could only feel the pain of knowing she wouldn't be able to give her daughter Christmas. A light rain began to fall as she crossed the garden. The evening was cold and grey. She walked up to the entrance and saw Yaritza waiting. The girl stood under the canopy in a shabby red jacket, holding her small school backpack. Yaritza smiled when she saw her mother, and it was this smile that completely broke Sylvanus. Right there, at the entrance to that ornate mansion, Sylvanus fell to her knees on the wet ground, took Yaretzi's small hands in hers, and spoke the most painful words she had ever had to say. "Daughter, forgive me. We won't have Christmas this year." Yaretzi blinked in confusion. "No dinner, baby. No present. I'm sorry. Your mother let you down." Yaretzi's eyes filled with drool. "Mum, why does Santa Claus never come to visit us? We are bad." Sylvanus hugged her daughter desperately and began to cry. She cried about injustice, about humiliation, about pain, but she didn't know that anyone was watching. Mario Solis has just arrived. He parked the car with gifts on the seat, got out of the car and started walking towards the door, but stopped paralyzed. There was Sylvanus on her knees, hugging her daughter, crying in the rain, and behind them the mansion gleamed in cruel contrast. Mario felt something break inside him. The image brought back memories of his own poor childhood, when Santa Claus never came, when he felt invisible. He turned and ran into the mansion. He needed answers. He walked up the stairs and found Adelaide in the room, drinking wine with a contented smile. "Mum, I need to talk to you right now." Adelaide looked at her son in surprise. "What happened, Mario? What happened to Sylvanus today?" Adelaide shrugged. "I had to take disciplinary action." "What measure?" "She stole the jewellery and the turkey and was rude to me, so I withheld her salary as punishment." Mario felt the blood freeze in his veins. "Did you withhold her pay on Christmas Eve?" "Yes, she needs to study." Mario took a step forward. "Mum, where are these decorations?" Adelaide hesitated. Mario saw the lie. She must have sold them. And the turkey, as if she were carrying the frozen turkey on foot so that no one would see." Aleida began to stutter. She somehow managed. "And the witnesses? Who saw how rude she was to you?" "My girlfriends. Your friends who hate maids." Silence. Mario took another step. The voice is low and dangerous. For the last time. "What really happened?" Adelaide fell apart. "Okay, I made that up. I hid the decoration in my closet and threw the turkey in the trash. She was never rude to me." Mario was left in shock. "Why?" Adelaide stood up in a rage. "Because she was getting too close to you. Because Gabriel loves her more than he loves me. She's just a maid." Mario felt disgusted. "Mother, you ruined an innocent girl's Christmas out of pure hatred. I protected this family. No, you poisoned this family." Mario turned his back but stopped. There was something else. His mother's hatred was disproportionate. "Stay in this room. Don't go out until I come back. What are you going to do? Find out what else you're hiding." He walked out and went straight to Adelaide's closed desk. He broke the lock and the door opened. Inside, everything was obsessively organized. He checked the drawers and found bank statements, luxury purchases, very high amounts, money that shouldn't have been there. At the bottom of the secret drawer he found a yellowed envelope. He opened it with trembling hands. It was the certified will of Elena, his late wife. Dated 2 months before her death, Elena left 500,000 pesos to Silvana Mendez as an eternal thank you for the day Silvana saved her life. When Elena suffered cardiac arrest at home and Silvana called an ambulance, she performed CPR and cardiac massage, kept Elena alive until help arrived. Elena wrote, "Silvana Mendez is the woman who gave me back the opportunity to watch my son grow up. May this amount help her realize her dreams and give her daughter, Eretzi, a worthy future." Mario felt tears streaming down his face. He never knew that Silvanus saved Elena, never knew about the will, and Silvanus never received the money. He continued checking. He found receipts, bank transfers, everything proving that Adelaida, as executor of the will, had given 500,000 pesos. She stole from Silvanus for 2 years. The truth fell like an avalanche. Aleida hated Silvanus not only out of prejudice. She hated her because Silvanus was proof of Elena's goodness, and because she needed to keep Silvanus in the dark to continue her theft. Mario saved the documents and ran out. He got into the car and drove out onto Monterey Street. The rain continued. Streets decorated with Christmas lights, happy families with shopping bags. The contrast was stark. He found Silvana and Retzi at a nearby bus stop sitting on a bench, wet, heretics, sleeping on their mother's lap. Silvana stared into space, her eyes red and empty. Silvanus, she was scared. "Listen, Mario, get in the car, I need to talk to you." Silvanus hesitated with fear, but she was exhausted. She was cold and shivering violently. She agreed. Mario helped lift the Erotzi into the back seat. They rode in silence. Finally he spoke. The voice is intermittent. "Silvanus, forgive me. I found out everything. My mother lied. You didn't steal anything. She made it up." Silvanus began to cry with relief. "But there's something else. There's a lot more you need to know, but now is not the time. You need to rest. Where do you live?" Silvana gave the address, a modest area far from the mansion. Mario was driving there. When they arrived, he helped lift the Erotzi into the small apartment. A simple place, clean but empty. No Christmas decorations, no food, nothing but dignity and love. "Silvanus, I'll be back early tomorrow. I promise to explain everything. Now take a rest." She just nodded, exhausted. Mario walked out, but before he left, he looked at the simple building and made a decision that would change everything. He returned home, decisive. Adelaide was in the room. He didn't want to talk to her, grabbed his mobile phone and started calling first the bank, then the lay-uchtering service. He was organising something that he hoped would begin to repair the damage. Outside, the rain continued. The Christmas lights were shining, and somewhere in the city a 6-year-old girl slept, believing that Santa Claus would never come. But sometimes Christmas comes in unexpected ways. Sometimes justice comes late. But it comes. Mariolis returned to the mansion with Elena's will in his hands and a cold rage burning in his chest. He climbed the stairs slowly. Every step is heavy with the reality he has just discovered. His mother was not just cruel, she was a thief. For 2 full years, Adelaide stole from Silvanus. For 2 years, she kept the innocent woman in poverty while using her money for personal luxuries, and all this time she pretended to be a kind person. Mario entered Adelaide's room without knocking. She sat in the chair, still drinking wine and leafing through an interior design magazine, as if nothing had happened, as if she hadn't just ruined the girl's Christmas. "Mum, we need to talk." Aleida looked at him with irritation. Again. "Mario, I already explained to you about this maid. She stole and was punished. The case is closed." Mario threw the will on the table next to her. The yellowed leaf fell with a dry sound. "Then explain it to me." Adelaide looked at the document and turned pale. Her fingers trembled when she recognized what it was. She tried to remain calm, but Mario saw panic in her eyes. "Where did you find this?" "In your desk, along with the bank statements that show exactly where the money Elena left Silvana went." Adelaide stood up, trying to assume a pose of authority, but her voice came out shaky. "You had no right to check my things, and you had no right to steal from Silvanus." The silence that followed was deafening. Adelaide opened her mouth to speak, but could not. For the first time in her life she was left without words, without excuses, without lies that could save her. Mario continued. The voice is sharp as a razor. Elena left Silvana 500,000 pesos as a thank you for saving her life. You were the executor of the property. You had a legal obligation to hand over this money, but instead you pocketed it all. You used them for your travels, your jewellery, your crafts. While Sylvanus was in need along with her daughter, you spent her money on trifles. Adelaide tried to defend herself. The voice is now desperate. This money was family money. Elena was not supposed to leave anything for the maid. Elena left what she wanted to whomever she wanted. It was her right. And you committed a crime, misappropriation of an inheritance. Do you know how many years in prison this gives? Adelaide turned pale. Mario was a lawyer. He knew exactly what he was talking about, and she knew there was no escape. Mario, please, I'm your mother. Mother doesn't do what you did. Mario took the will and turned to leave, but before he crossed the door he stopped and looked at Adelaide one last time. You will stay in this room for the night. Tomorrow we will talk about what will happen to you, what you will do to me. It's up to you, but you need to know that what you did has consequences, and this time you will face them. Mario walked out and closed the door, leaving Adelaide alone with her lies crumbling around her. He went down the stairs and went into the office. He needed to think. He needed to plan. It was necessary to fix what his mother had destroyed. He sat down in the leather chair and opened the will again. He read every word Elena had written, every thanks, every wish for Silvana to have a better life. And Mario remembered Elena, remembered her kindness, how she always treated everyone with kindness. Silvana saved Elena's life, gave her more time with her son, and in return, Adelaide robbed her for years. Mario picked up his mobile phone and started calling. The first call was to the bank. He authorized an immediate transfer of 500,000 pesos, with monetary adjustment of interest for the 2 years of delay. The final amount was almost 600,000 pesos. This was the least that Sylvanus deserved. The second call was to the best catering service in Monterrey. He ordered a full Christmas dinner: turkey, smoked pork leg, capirotada, Mexican rice, apple salad, selected salads, fresh fruit, a variety of desserts, artisan panettones, imported wines and juices. He asked that everything be delivered to Sylvanus's address the following day, December 24th, in the afternoon. The third call was to a toy store that was still open. He bought gifts for Jerosi, a large doll, colouring books, educational games, new clothes, and a full set of school supplies. The following year he asked to have everything wrapped up and delivered with dinner. When he finished the calls, Mario leaned back in his chair and took a deep breath. But there was still something that was bothering him, something he needed to do that was making him nervous. He wanted to spend Christmas with Silvana and Yarotsi. He wanted to be there when he didn't get dinner. He wanted to see Yaretsi's smile when she opened the gifts. He wanted to show that not everyone in the mansion was as cruel as Adelaide. But will Sylvanus accept him? After all, after everything that happened, she trusted him. Mario was Adelaide's son. He was a master who failed to notice the years of humiliation that Sylvanus had endured. He had a right to ask to be part of this moment. Mario looked around the mansion. Everything there was big, expensive, and empty. The Christmas decoration was perfect but artificial. There was no warmth, no life, only beautiful objects without a soul. He thought of Sylvana's small apartment, simple, modest, but full of love, full of life, full of truth. He made a decision that if Horatius invited him, he would go, take Gabriel with him, and they would celebrate Christmas together. Not as master and servant, but as people, as human beings who deserve to celebrate the most important day of the year with dignity and affection. Mario went up to Gabriel's room. The boy slept deeply, hugging his teddy bear. Mario sat on the edge of the bed and stroked his son's hair. Gabriel adored Sylvanus. He always asked about her, always asked to play with her Retzi. For the boy, there was no difference between the two families. There were only friends. There was only love. Son, tomorrow we will celebrate Christmas differently, a real Christmas. Mario kissed Gabriel on the forehead and left the room. He returned to his room but could not sleep. He remained sleepless, thinking about everything. About Eleanor, about Silvana, about Yarots, about how life can be unfair, about how people can be cruel for no reason, and about how sometimes one choice can change the course of everything. Meanwhile, on the other side of the city, Sylvanus couldn't sleep either. She lay on the thin mattress of the apartment, looking at the cracked ceiling, and Yarotsi slept next to her. There were still traces of tears on the girl's face. Sylvanus ran her hand through her daughter's hair and felt her heart clench again. How will she explain to Eurytia that they won't have Christmas? How can she look into her daughter's eyes on December 25th and say that there is nothing, no gifts, no dinner, no holiday? Just another empty day in a life of complete emptiness. Sylvanus stood up slowly so as not to wake the Eurytia and went to the kitchen. She opened the almost empty refrigerator. It contained half an old bun, the rest of the margarine and a little water. She closed the refrigerator and sat on the floor leaning against the wall, and there, alone in the darkness, she let the tears flow again. She didn't understand what had happened. Mario said that Adelaide was lying, that she didn't steal anything. But why? Why did Adelaide come up with something so cruel? What did Sylvanus do to deserve such hatred? She always worked honestly, always treated everyone with respect, always cared for Gabriel as if he were her own son. Then why did Adelaide hate her so much? Sylvan had no answers, only pain and fatigue. Deep fatigue from having carried the whole world on my shoulders for a long time alone. She thought about giving up. I thought about taking a raise and leaving Monterey, starting over somewhere else. But where? With what money? She barely had enough money to eat. How will she get tickets? An apartment? Food? No, she could not give up. Not for herself, but for Eurytia. This girl deserved better, deserved a future, deserved opportunities. And Sylvanus would do anything to give it to her, even if it meant enduring humiliation, even if it meant working herself to the point of exhaustion. Sylvanus wiped away her tears and returned to the room. She lay down next to Eurytia and hugged her daughter tightly. At least they had each other. At least they weren't completely alone in the world. I promise you, daughter, someday everything will be better. Someday you will have everything you deserve. And with that promise whispered in the darkness, Sylvanus finally fell asleep. The morning of December 24th arrived cold and cloudy. Mario woke up early but remained lying down for a few minutes looking out the window. Today was Christmas Eve. Today everything will change. He got up, took a shower and dressed in simple clothes. Not a regular suit, but jeans and a casual shirt. He went down to the kitchen and made himself some coffee, and Dalloyd was still locked in the room. He didn't want to see her. Not now. Tomorrow, on Christmas Day, he'll make the final decision about what to do with her. Gabriel came down a little later, still sleepy. "Good morning, Dad." "Good morning, champion. Did you sleep well?" "Slept. Today is Christmas Eve. What are we going to do?" Maurice smiled and knelt down at his son's level. "Today we're going to do something very special. We will take gifts to a family that needs them, for Aunt Sylvana and Eurytia." Gabriel's eyes lit up. "Yarot, is it true that I can play with her? Can you do it? And if they invite us, maybe we can spend Christmas with them?" Gabriel jumped for joy. I want to spend Christmas with Eurytia." Mario hugged his son and felt his heart warm. At least Gabriel still had the purity to see no difference, to not judge, only to love. They had breakfast together, and Mario checked everything again. Catering service will be delivered at 3 p.m. Gifts, too. Mario will personally deliver the will and check. He will talk to Sylvanus, explain everything and ask for forgiveness, not only on his own behalf, but on behalf of the entire Solis family. Mario looked at his watch. It was still 10 in the morning. He had time. He decided to do something important before going. He needed to tidy the house, make sure everything was ready for his return, and he needed to think about what he would say about Dalloyd the next day. The hours passed slowly. Mario arranged Gabriel's gifts, organized some documents, and checked the will again. With each passing minute, the anxiety grew. What if Sylvanus doesn't accept his apology? What if she hates him because it took him so long to understand the truth? The time has finally come. Mario took Gabriel, put the important documents in an envelope and left the house. First, he will check whether the catering service has already been delivered. Then he will personally go and talk to Sylvanus. At exactly 3 p.m, the delivery truck pulled up in front of the modest building where Sylvanus lived. 2 delivery men came down carrying box after box. Sylvanus heard the doorbell ring and went to open it, confused. When she opened the door, she couldn't believe what she saw. Delivery for Sylvana Mendez. Yes, it's me, but there must be a mistake. There is no mistake, Signora. This is an order from Signor Mario Solis. The delivery people started lifting the boxes. Turkey, smoked pork leg, caprata doda, rice, apple salad, salads, fruits, desserts, panettones, wines, juices. The apartment's small table began to become covered with food. Erisy woke up from the noise and ran into the living room with her eyes wide open. "Mum, what is all this?" Sylvanus was in shock and couldn't speak. It was food. Lots of food. More food than she had ever seen in her life. The delivery people also brought bags with wrapped gifts. Dolls, books, clothes, toys. "This is for you too. Merry Christmas." The delivery men left, and Sylvanus was left standing in the middle of the living room looking at it all. Horatia started jumping and screaming with joy. "Mom! Mom! Santa Claus has come! He has come for real!" Sylvanus fell to her knees and hugged her daughter, crying. But this time they were tears of relief, gratitude, hope. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but she understood that someone cared, that someone saw her pain, that someone decided to help. While Mario was preparing for the most important meeting of his life, thousands of people in Mexico were living their own silent battles, their own invisible pain. And you? Where are you looking at this story from? Write your city here and share if you have already experienced an unexpected change that changed everything. A few minutes later, the doorbell rang again. Silvana went to open the door and found Mario standing in the doorway with Gabriel by her side. He held the envelope in his hands. "Sylvanus, can we come in? I need to talk to you." She hesitated, still confused, but opened the door. Mario and Gabriel entered. The boy immediately ran to Yoretzi, and the two girls began to play with the gifts. Mario looked around. The apartment was simple, but now there was life there. There was food, there were gifts, there was joy. "Sylvanus, I need to explain everything to you. Please sit down." They sat down on a small sofa. Mario took a deep breath and began. "My mum lied about you stealing. I have discovered this, but there is more, much more." He handed her the will. "This is the will left by Elena, my late wife, dated 2 months before her death. She left you 500,000 pesos. Sylvanus looked at the paper, not understanding. 500,000? But why? Because you saved her life. 3 years ago, when she had a heart attack, you called an ambulance, gave her CPR and heart massage. You kept her alive. Elena never forgot it. She wanted to thank you." Sylvanus began to remember. She remembered that day, the despair, how she saw Elena fall, how she did everything she could to save her. She was just doing what she thought was right. She never expected anything in return. "I just did what I had to do. For you, it was your duty. For Elena, it was a return to life. It was an opportunity to see her son grow up, and she wanted to make it up to you." Mario handed her the check. "This is the adjusted amount, almost 600,000 pesos. It was always yours, but my mother, as the executor of the will, appropriated it all. She robbed you for 2 years." Sylvanus held the check with trembling hands. 600,000 pesos. She had never seen so much money. She never imagined that she would have so much money. "Mario, I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything. It is I who should be asking for forgiveness for being blind, for not protecting you, for allowing my mother to do what she did." Sylvana looked at him and saw sincerity in Mario's eyes. She saw remorse. She saw pain. "You didn't know, but I should have known. I live in the same house. I should have noticed." They remained in silence for a moment. Then Yoretzi ran to them, holding a new doll. "Uncle Mario, thank you for the gifts. You will stay for dinner. Can we eat together?" Sylvanus was quick to tell him that he didn't need to do that he had already done too much. But Mario smiled. A real smile, the kind he had not given in years. "You know, Yoretzi, I would really like it if your mother allowed me." Sylvanus looked at her daughter, looked at Gabriel, looked at all the food on the table, and realized that for the first time in a long time she wasn't alone. There were people there, people who cared. "You can stay, it would be an honor." So, on that Christmas Eve, 4 people gathered in a small apartment to celebrate. There was no luxury, no ostentation, but there was something much more valuable. There was humanity, there was forgiveness, there was a new beginning. Ita was just beginning. The second half of December 24th continued, but nothing was as before. In Sylvana's small apartment, a transformation was taking place not only in the decorations or in the food laid out on the table, but in the hearts of those who were there. Sylvanus and Eretzi, who had woken up that day without hope, now saw a different future looming ahead, and Mario, who had always lived surrounded by wealth and empty meaning, finally understood what it meant to feel at home. After the initial conversation, Sylvana and Aretius began to tidy up the apartment to receive guests. Heresy was beaming, running here and there, touching the gifts, smelling the food, laughing with Gabriel. The girl kept repeating the same phrase, as if she needed confirmation that all of this was real. "Mum, Santa Claus has come for real. He has not forgotten about us." Every time Eric said this, Sylvanus felt the tears threatening to return. But these were different tears. These weren't tears of pain or despair now. These were tears of relief, gratitude, the realization that after so long of carrying the world on her shoulders alone, someone had finally reached out to help her up. Mario watched everything in silence, sitting on the small sofa in the living room. He watched as Sylvanus tried to set the table with the few plates she had, trying to make everything beautiful despite its simplicity. He watched as she carefully folded paper napkins, as she arranged the mismatched cutlery, as she arranged the chairs so that everyone would fit, and he knew that there was more beauty in this simplicity than in all the lavish dinners he had ever hosted in his life. "Sylvana, can I help you?" She looked at him in surprise. "The owner offers help. It was too new to process. No need for a Mario license." "I can. Please just call me Mario and let me help. I didn't come here as a host. I came here as a friend." The word friend hung in the air for a moment. Sylvanus looked at him, looking for signs of lies, pity, condescension, but found only sincerity. Mario really wanted to help. He really wanted to be a part of it. "Okay, can you reheat the turkey in the oven?" Mario smiled and went into the small kitchen. He had never reheated a turkey in his life. In the mansion, everything was done by other people. But here, in this modest apartment, he wanted to learn, he wanted to participate, he wanted to be truly useful. While Mario was trying to figure out how the old oven worked, Gabriel and Yaretz were playing in the living room. Two girls sat on the floor, surrounded by new toys. Gabriel showed Yarot how to put together a puzzle she had brought from home. And Yaretzi showed the new doll she received. "She is very beautiful. I'll call her Elena." Gabriel looked at her friend with curiosity. "Why Elena?" "Because Uncle Mario said that my mother saved a person named Elena. She must have been very important." Gabrielle thought for a moment, then smiled. "Eleanor was my mother. She was very beautiful. I'm sure she would love to know that you named the doll after her." Haritia hugged the doll tenderly, as if she were hugging the memory of a man she never knew, but who had so profoundly changed her life and the life of her mother. In the kitchen, Mario heard the girls talking and felt his chest tighten. Eleanor would be proud. Proud to see my son playing without prejudice. Proud to know that Sylvanus finally got what she deserved. Proud to see that her kindness still resonates in the world even after she's gone. An hour later, the apartment was transformed. Sylvana hung up Christmas lights she had kept for years but never used because of energy conservation. Now, with renewed hope, she turned them on. Cheap lights, but they added life to the atmosphere. Hersey pasted the Christmas drawings she made at school onto the walls. Paper stars, colourful Christmas trees, snowmen drawn with crayons. None of this cost money, but it cost more than any expensive jewellery. The table was set. The plates were not identical, but clean and well arranged. Plain glass tumblers, yet shiny, simple cutlery, yet meticulously organised. And in the centre is all this food, which seemed like an impossible dream just a few hours ago. Golden turkey, juicy pork knuckle, flavourful caparata, colourful Mexican rice, crisp apple salad, fresh salads, glistening fruit. It was an abundance that Sylvanus never imagined she would have in her home. "Everything is very beautiful, Sylvanus." Mario stood in the doorway of the living room watching everything, and he really found it beautiful, because it wasn't just decoration, it was love, it was work, it was dignity, it was a mother doing the best she could with what she had. And there was more truth in this than in all the decorations planned by the famous designers he knew. Thank you, Mario, and thank you for all this. I still can't believe it. Believe in it. This is yours. It was always yours. Sylvanus took a deep breath, trying to contain her emotions. She still had so many questions, so many doubts, but at that moment she decided that the questions could wait. At that moment, she just wanted to say thank you. Give thanks for this unexpected Christmas. To be grateful that she's not alone. To be grateful that she had someone who finally saw her pain and decided to do something about it. Let's start with husbands. The girls screamed with joy and ran to the table. Sylvanus asked everyone to hold hands. She wanted to pray. This was not something she usually did, but on this day it felt right. On this day it seemed necessary to give thanks for something greater than she could understand. God, thank you for this day. Thank you for these people. Thank you for this food. Thank you for showing that miracles still exist, that good people still exist, that there is still hope. Amen. Amen. The voices united, and for a moment in that small apartment, 4 people from such different realities became one family, not by blood, but by choice, by love, by humanity. The dinner was noisy, cheerful, and full of life. Eriza told stories from school, making Gabrielle laugh. Gabrielle showed off the trick she learned in Taekwondo, impressing Eriza. Silvana and Mario talked, discovering that they had more in common than they had imagined. Both lost important people. Both raised children alone, both carried invisible burdens that no one saw. How was it for you? Raise a bright girl alone. Sylvanus thought before answering. Nobody ever asked her about it. Nobody ever asked how her life was. It was difficult. It's complicated. There are days when I don't know if I can, if I'll succeed, if I'm good enough. But then I look at her and remember why I keep trying. Mario nodded his head, understanding perfectly. I feel the same way about Gabrielle. After Elena died, I was left lost. I thought I couldn't be both a dad and a mum. I thought I'd fail, but she gives me strength just by looking at her. I know I have to keep going. We do what we can, right? And hope it's enough. You're more than enough. Silvana, look at Yorotse. Look how polite she is, how gentle, how well-groomed she is. You've done an incredible job. Silvana felt the tears return, but this time she didn't try to hide them. For the first time in years, someone recognized her efforts. Someone saw how she struggled. Someone understood that being a single mother wasn't just hard, it was heroic. Thank you. Thank you for seeing this. Mario reached out and took Silvana's hand on the table. It wasn't a romantic gesture. It was a gesture of solidarity, recognition, respect. I see it, and I admire it. I admire it very much. After dinner, the girls asked to open their presents. Silvana agreed, and soon the living room was filled with torn wrapping paper, loud laughter, and cries of joy. Eresi first opened a large doll and hugged it so tightly that it seemed she wanted to merge with it. Then came colouring books, games, new clothes. Each gift was received as if it were the greatest treasure in the world. Gabrielle also received the gifts that Mario brought, and the two played together, sharing everything. There was no ego, no competition. There were just 2 girls celebrating Christmas the way it should be celebrated, with pure and selfless joy. Mario watched everything and felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Peace. He was at peace. He didn't think about court cases, about meetings, about obligations. He was simply present, simply living this moment, just happy. Silvana came up to him, holding 2 cups of coffee. Do you want some? I do, thank you. They sat on the couch next to each other, watching the girls play. The night was already falling outside, and the Christmas lights of the apartment glowed softly. Everything was perfect. Not perfect, but perfect. Simple, but complete. Mario, can I ask you something? Can you? Why are you doing all this? It's not just about the money from the will, right? You could have sent it all through a third party, but you came. You're here. Why? Mario took a sip of coffee before answering. It was a fair question, a question that deserved an honest answer. Because I saw you. I saw you kneeling in the rain. I saw Eresi asking why Santa Claus doesn't come. And it reminded me of something. It reminded me of myself when I was a kid and I had nothing, when I felt invisible, and I promised myself that day that if I succeed, I will never let anyone feel this way. I will never let a girl believe that she doesn't deserve to be happy. Silvana looked at him with admiration. She had judged incorrectly. She thought Mario was just another rich man who had never suffered. But he too had his scars, his pain, his battles. You're a good man, Mario. I am trying to be one. I am trying to right my and my family's wrongs, And your mother, what will happen to her? Mario sighed. Adelaide. He still had to decide what to do. Part of him wanted to report her, take her to court, make her pay for what she had done. But another part of him, the part that still remembered the mother she had once been, was hesitant. Tomorrow I will decide. Tomorrow I will talk to her. But one thing is certain. She can't stay in my house anymore. Not after what she did. You throw her out, I will. I have no choice. She poisoned everything. She poisoned the house. She poisoned the relationship, poisoned the memory of the announcement. I can't go on living with this. Savannah nodded her head, understanding. She didn't feel sorry for Adelaide after all this, but she understood that for Mario, this decision was painful. It was a choice between his mother and what was right, and he chose what was right. It would be difficult, it would hurt, but right isn't always easy. The night progressed, and gradually the girls began to tire. Eretz yawned, still hugging her Elena doll. Gabrielle lay on the floor, surrounded by toys. Mario looked at his watch and realized it was already midnight, already Christmas. I think we should go. The girls are tired. Silvana agreed, but there was sadness in her eyes. She didn't want this moment to end. She didn't want to go back to loneliness. She didn't want the magic of this night to dissipate. You can stay a little longer if you want. Mary smiled. We're staying. We'll just put the girls to bed. Sleep. Silvana prepared the only room in the apartment for the girls. She laid mattresses on the floor, a clean blanket, soft pillows. Herse and Gabriel lay down next to each other, still talking quietly, until sleep finally won. Silva stood there for a moment, looking at the two sleeping girls, and felt her heart swell with gratitude. When she returned to the living room, she found Mario cleaning up the mess of presents. He folded wrapping paper, organized toys, wiped the table. Silvana joined him, and they worked in silence, in a strangely comfortable synchrony. Thank you for staying. Thank you for letting me stay. When they finished, they sat back on the couch. The house was silent, now only the sound of the Christmas lights softly blinking. Mario looked around and realized that he didn't want to leave. He didn't want to go back to the cold and empty mansion. He didn't want to go back to loneliness. Silvana, can I ask you something? Can I? Do you still want to work for me? After everything that happened, Silvana thought, that was a tough question. Part of her wanted to say no. She wanted to move away from everything that hurt her. But another part knew she needed the job. And more importantly, she knew Mario wasn't like Adelaide. He was different. He was fair. I want to, but not like that. I don't want to be invisible. I don't want to be humiliated. I don't want to live in fear. You won't. I promise you that. In fact, I have a better offer. I want to offer you a position as a house manager with a fair salary, guaranteed rights. Everything is registered, and there is something else. Silvana looked at him curiously. There is a small room at the back of the mansion. It was recently renovated. There is a bedroom, a bathroom, a small kitchen. It is comfortable. You and I, Retzi, can live there without paying rent. This way, you don't have to spend the money from the will on housing. You can invest in Yoretzi's future, in her education, the things she needs. Silvana was left speechless. A better job, a place to live, security, stability, everything she ever dreamed of. Mario, I don't know what to say. Say you agree. I agree, of course I agree. But why are you doing all this? Mario looked into her eyes and answered with absolute sincerity. Because it's right. Because you deserve it. And why? Because I don't want to live in this house anymore without life, without warmth, without humanity. You and I, Ressi, bring it, bring life, and I need it. Gabriel, I need it. Silvana smiled, and for the first time in years, it was a smile without sadness, without pain, without fear. It was a smile of pure hope. Then it was agreed. They shook hands, sealing the agreement, but it was more than a professional agreement. It was the beginning of something new, a chosen family, a new beginning. Mario eventually fell asleep on the couch, exhausted but happy. Silvana put the blanket over him and went into the room lying down next to Yeretz. She looked at her daughter, sleeping, hugging her doll Elena, and whispered in the darkness, "We did it, daughter. We finally did it." And with that certainty in her heart, Silvana too fell asleep for the first time in a long time. She slept without worries, without fears, without burdens, only with peace, and it was the best Christmas they had ever had, the most real, the most special, the one that changed everything. The sun filtered through the cracks of Silvana's apartment's simple curtains, bringing with it the promise of a new beginning. It was the morning of December 25th, Christmas Day. Silvana slowly woke up, still processing everything that had happened in the last 24 hours. But for a moment she thought it was a dream, that she would wake up and find that the dinner, the presents, the money, it all had been nothing more than a cruel illusion. But then she looked around and saw the evidence scattered throughout the house. The table still with the remains of dinner, the toys on the floor, Mario sleeping on the couch, covered with the blanket she had placed on him. It was real. Everything was real. Silvana got up without a sound and she went into the kitchen to make coffee. While the water was boiling, she looked out the small window. Outside, the world went on as usual. People were waking up, the streets empty at Christmas. The Monterey sky was still cloudy, but for her, everything was different. For the first time in years, Silvana woke up without fear. She didn't wake up with the crushing weight of not knowing how she would pay the bills. She didn't wake up wondering if it would be enough for her daughter. She woke up with hope, with confidence, with peace. The coffee was ready, and its aroma filled the apartment. Mario stirred on the couch, slowly waking. He opened his eyes and was momentarily disoriented, not knowing where he was. Then he saw Silvana in the kitchen, saw the simple apartment around him, and remembered everything and smiled. The real smile of someone who slept better than he had in years. "Good morning." "Good morning, Mario. You slept well, better than I imagined. This couch is more comfortable than my bed." Silvana. She laughed, knowing it was not true, but she understood what he meant. It wasn't about physical comfort, but emotional comfort. It was about being in a place where you felt welcome, loved, at home. "Do you want coffee?" "I do, thank you." They sat at the table, still full of the remains of last night's dinner. They drank their coffee in comfortable silence, just enjoying the calm morning and each other's company. Mario was the first to break the silence. "I need to go home today. I need to sort out the situation with my mother." Silvana nodded, understanding. Adelaide, the woman who caused so much pain, the woman who stole, lied, and destroyed. What will Mario do with her? Have you decided yet? "I have decided. She needs to leave home. I can't continue living with someone capable of what she did. Not for myself, but for Gabriel. I don't want my son to grow up next to such evil. And then, after she's gone, I want you and the Yorotsi to move into the mansion. The small room is already ready. You can start a new life. A better life." Silvana felt the tears threatening to return, but this time they were good tears, of gratitude, relief, hopes realized. "When do you want us to move?" "Whenever you want, even today if you prefer, or in a few days, at your pace. I think a few days would be better. I need to set everything up here, warn the owner of the apartment, prepare the Yorotsi. Of course, no rush, you decide." They finished their coffee, and soon the girls woke up hungry and cheerful. Silvana made breakfast from the leftovers, and everyone ate together, laughing and talking. It looked like a real family, and maybe it was family. Maybe family had nothing to do with blood, but with choice, with love, with presence. An hour later, Mario and Gabriel were preparing to return to the mansion. Erissi hugged her friend tightly, making him promise that they would play again soon. Mario hugged Silvana, thanking her again for everything. "Thank you. I should thank you. Let's thank each other. Then you showed me what was truly important. You made me remember who I was before I got lost in obligations and appearances, and you gave me hope, showed me that there are still good people in the world." They said goodbye with a promise to see each other soon, and Mario and Gabriel drove away. The drive back to the mansion was quiet. Gabriel slept in the back seat, tired from the previous night, and Mario drove, thinking about what he was about to do. Kicking out his own mother was something he never imagined he would do, but there was no choice. Adelaide had crossed a line that could not be forgiven. When they arrived at the mansion, Mario immediately noticed that something was different. The Christmas lights were still on, but the house seemed dead, empty, cold, so different from the small, full life. Silvana's apartment. He entered, took Gabriel into the room, and went to look for Adelaide. He found her in the living room, sitting alone, a glass of wine in her hand, her eyes red from crying all night. She looked at Mario when he entered, but said nothing, just waited. "Mum, we need to talk. I know what you're going to say. You know, you're going to kick me out. You're going to send me away, you ungrateful son." Mario took a deep breath, controlling the anger that was starting to rise. Ungrateful. I'm ungrateful. Mum, you stole from an innocent woman. You made up a lie. You ruined a little girl's Christmas, and you still have the nerve to call me ungrateful. Adelaide stood up, shaking with anger and despair. I did everything for you, to protect you, to keep this family together. You didn't do it for yourself, out of selfishness, out of a sick need to control everything, but that's over. I want you out of this house by the end of the day, and where would I go? I don't care. You have money. You have the apartment you renovated with the money you stole from Silvana. You have options, use them. Adelaide started to cry, but they were fake tears, tears of self-pity, not genuine remorse. You will regret this, Mario. You will understand that I was right. This woman will use you, will take advantage of you. Silvana is not like you, Mother. She is honest, hard-working, kind. Everything you should have been, but chose not to be. Adelaide tried one last move. She walked up to him, grabbing his hand. Think of Gabriel. He needs his grandmother. Don't take that away from him. Mario pulled his hand away, looking at his mother with a mixture of sadness and disgust. Gabriel doesn't need a grandmother who teaches hatred, who teaches prejudice that teaches cruelty. He deserves to grow up surrounded by love. If you can't give that, then it's better that you're not part of his life. Adelaide realized that she had lost, that there were no more arguments, no more manipulation, no more lies that could save her. She had made her choice, and now she would pay the price. Will you regret it? No, I already regret a lot. About being blind, about not noticing sooner, about allowing you to hurt innocent people, but about kicking you out, I will never regret that. Adelaide went up to the room without saying anything more. Mario heard her sorting through drawers, dragging suitcases, slamming doors, and he felt no pity. He felt no remorse. He felt only relief. Relief that this poison would finally be removed from his house. 2 hours later, Adelaide came down with 3 large suitcases, called a taxi and left, not without saying goodbye, without looking back, without a word of remorse. Mario watched the taxi drive away out the window and felt as if a huge weight had been lifted from his shoulders. The house was quiet, now a silent silence. It wasn't the heavy, suffocating silence of before. It was the silence of peace, of possibility, of a new beginning. Gabriel came down for lunch and asked about Grandma. Mario knelt at his son's level and carefully explained. Grandma Adelaide went to live somewhere else. She won't live here with us anymore. Why? Because she did things that hurt people, and when we hurt people, we need to face the consequences. Gabriel thought for a moment, then asked something that caught Mario off guard. She hurt Aunt Silvana. Yes, very much. Then it's good that she left. Aunt Silvana is good. She didn't deserve to be hurt. Mario hugged his son, proud of the empathy he showed. At least Gabriel hadn't inherited Adelaide's cruelty. He was kind, fair. Well now, Dad, who's going to take care of the house? Aunt Silvana will be the housekeeper, and she and Yaretsi will live here with us. Gabriel's eyes sparkled with joy. Really, Yaretsi will live here. We'll be able to play every day. Yes, every day. Gabriele jumped for joy and ran off to play, already imagining all the adventures he would have with his friend. And Mario stayed in the big empty living room planning the future, a better future, more fair, more humane. In the following days, Silvana organized the move. She didn't have many things, so it was quick. Clothes, a few books, kitchen utensils, photographs, the bare essentials. Yaretsi was excited about the move, but also a little nervous. Everything was so new, so different. On moving day, Mario personally came for them, loaded the boxes, helped put everything in the car and drove to the mansion. When they arrived, Silvana looked at the Big Don with a strange feeling. She knew this place. She had worked there for those years, but now it was different. This place would be her home now. Her home, her new beginning. Mario showed the small room in the back that would be theirs. It was simple but comfortable. There was a bedroom with 2 beds, a full bathroom, a small kitchen, and a living room. There were large windows that let in natural light. Shelves for books, closets for clothes. It was perfect. Heresy ran around the room exploring every corner, screaming with joy. Silvana stood in the doorway, looking at it all and trying to believe that it was real, that it was hers, that she finally had a safe place to raise her daughter. Did you like it? Silvana turned to Mario with tears in her eyes. It's perfect. Thank you. Thank you for everything. Welcome home, Silvana. Home. For the first time in a long time, the word meant something. It meant safety, welcome, a future. The next months were adaptations and discoveries. Silvana took on the role of housekeeper and transformed the mansion, not only cleaning and organising, but also bringing life. She placed fresh flowers in vases, opened the windows to let in air, cooked home-cooked meals that filled the house with a good smell. And gradually, this place that had once been cold and soulless became a true home. Eretz and Gabriel were inseparable. They played together, studied together, grew up together. Silvana enrolled Eretz in a private school using part of the money from Elena's will. The girl developed, learned, dreamed. Everything Silvana had always wanted for her. And Mario had changed. He spent more time at home, having dinner with Silvana and the girls, talking about the day. He laughed more, lived more. He realized that he had lived for years simply existing, simply fulfilling obligations, simply breathing. But now he truly lived one night, a few months after Mario moved in. And Silvana sat in the mansion's garden while the girls played. It was a cold but beautiful June night with the stars shining in the sky. Do you regret anything? Silvana thought before answering. No, not even the bad parts, because everything led me here and it's good here. Truly, for the first time in my life I'm not afraid, I have no doubts. I don't bear it all alone, and that's worth everything. Mario smiled, understanding perfectly. He also felt lighter, fuller, more alive. And Adelaide, do you have news of her? No, I prefer this. She made her choice. Now she lives with them. In reality, Adelaide lived alone in a small apartment. She had money, but no company, no love, no peace. Her rich friends abandoned her when they found out about the scandal. Her son kicked her out. Her grandson didn't ask about her. She was completely alone, consumed by her own bitterness. And while Silvana and Mario were building a new life full of love and hope, Adelaide saw in her self-imposed solitude. The contrast couldn't be greater, and the message couldn't be clearer. He who sows hatred reaps loneliness. He who sows love reaps family. A year after that Christmas that changed everything, the mansion was decorated for this day again. But this time it was different. The decorations were simpler, more homely. Heretzi Gabriel made paper ornaments. Silvana cooked dinner with her own hands. Mario put up the tree with the girls' help. Everything was imperfect, but that's precisely why it was perfect. On the night of December 24th, a year after that cold rain that started it all, the four sat down to dinner. Silvana looked around and couldn't hold back her tears, tears of pure gratitude. A year ago she was on her knees in the rain, asking her daughter for forgiveness for not having a Christmas. A year ago she didn't know how she would pay. Rent. A year ago she was at the bottom of the abyss, and now here she was, in a beautiful home, with a decent job, a happy and healthy daughter, friends who had become family, with a future, with hope, with peace. Let's raise a toast. Mario raised a glass of juice and everyone followed suit. To new beginnings, to chosen families, to real Christmases, and to all the people who, like us, found light in the darkness. Health. The glasses touched, and the sound echoed through the house, the sound of joy, unity, love. After dinner, they sat in the living room to open presents. Heresy got new books and art supplies. Gabriel got games and clothes, and Silvana received something from Mario that left her speechless. It was documentation for the small room where she lived. Mario was transferring the property into her name. Mario, I can't accept this. You can. This is your home, Silvana. Indeed, yours. I want you to be safe, to know that no matter what happens, you and Eric will always have a place to call your own. Silvana hugged Mario tightly, crying with gratitude. And in that embrace there was more than gratitude. There was friendship. There was respect. There was a deep connection between two people who met at the worst moment of their lives and decided to help each other recover. The girls played with new gifts. Mario and Silvana talked about plans for next year. Everything was simple, everything was sincere, everything was real. And when the night was over and everyone went to bed, Silvana lay down in bed next to Eric's and looked at her daughter sleeping, hugging the Elena doll, and whispered in the darkness, "We did it, daughter. It wasn't easy. There was a lot of pain, a lot of suffering, but we did it, and it was worth it. Every tear, every struggle, every sleepless night, it was all worth it to get here." And with this confidence in her heart, Silvana also slept in peace, safe, at home. Because in the end, Silvana's story was not about wealth, not about mansions or money. It was a story about dignity, about justice, about kindness triumphing over cruelty. It was a story about a mother who never gave up, a man who chose to do what was right, children who taught adults to love without prejudice, and a Christmas that, despite starting with tears in the rain, ended with hope in the heart. Forgiveness, kindness, and justice are the true miracles of Christmas, capable of transforming even the hardest heart and healing even the deepest wounds. When we choose to see the humanity in another, when we choose to reach out instead of turning away, when we choose love over hate, we open the door to the greatest gift of all: redemption, a second chance, a new beginning. And sometimes all we need is someone who believes in us when we don't believe in ourselves anymore. A man who sees our humanity when the world sees only our misery. A man who chooses justice when it would be easier to choose indifference. Silvana's found this man in Mario. Mario found redemption in Silvana, and together they built something no amount of money could buy. A family that is truly imperfect but real, simple but deep, chosen but eternal. And that plea for forgiveness in the rain, that phrase that broke hearts, turned into something more. It turned into hope, into justice, into love. Because sometimes the most beautiful stories are born from the most painful moments, and sometimes the truest Christmas is the one we never imagined.